Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can be heard now. Hey guys, sorry about that. Had a little technical difficulty with the mic there. But, yeah. Okay, as I was saying earlier, we are back playing the exact same game that we were last night. I'm testing out the Juno, which is an experimental piece of tech right now, but you can unlock it later. And I'm just getting that test out of the way so that it'll clear out of my contracts, give me a little bit of money, and probably a little bit of science too. Just tiny little things that can be very useful. Okay. And of course I've still got the hammer and the thumper. And the thumper, if you'll remember, we ran a test on it last night, but didn't quite get it right. So I'm actually going to open up this one, and I think the main problem that we had last night was that we were going too fast while we were within the designated range there. So I'm going to tone down these boosters a little bit, see if that doesn't help. And the nice thing about having any of them put on here with any sort of symmetry is all the ones that were placed on there with that symmetry share the same settings. So you only have to do it once and boom, you're good. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if we can't get Jebediah a little bit more experience there. And I'm also supposed to fly by the Mun eventually. But I'll probably end up doing that with a probe of some sort. So, yeah, let's go ahead and rename this one since we are going to be making a different kind of flight with it. And then launch. Okay, and as always, remember to turn on your SAS or you will regret it later on. And we're trying for the thumper here, so I'm going to wait until all of this is green. All this has a little green check marks on it, and then I'm going to fire off that next booster, which is also a thumper. So here we go. Now the biggest problem with toning down your boosters is that you always run the risk of toning them down too far, which I believe I may have actually done here, but we'll see. And for some reason I'm getting this slight westward tilt. Okay, come on, come on. Then again, going into a retrograde orbit is not exactly going to kill me. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can't... No, I can't. There's no way I'm going to be able to coast that sucker up there. Figures. Okay. And fire that sucker and lose those three. Yeah, that's the problem with having the whole test thing is I've got to be in the right range and in the right range there, and yeah. And then I've got to activate it through staging. So in this case, we're just going to try to get Jebediah into orbit, which we may or may not be able to do. We'll see. Yeah. And of course, destroying the previous stage is always a problem that you face when you're immediately firing off an engine right after you fire your stack decoupler. Okay. Toss that sucker off and let's see what our orbit actually looks like here. Huh? It's actually not that bad. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that engine down, but I am going to fire it off. That way when I'm ready to, I can go ahead and use its thrust. But as I discussed last night, the best place to adjust your periapsis is actually at the apoapsis. So I'm going to wait until I get a little bit closer to that, and then I'm going to go ahead and fire this engine up, but just a little bit. Trying not to use up all of my fuel all at once. Okay. And of course you can keep an eye on your altitude and your speed and everything from here. I'm actually starting to get pretty close, so I'm going to go ahead and just let it fire a little bit. And if you'll notice, I'm not actually pointing directly prograde, because all that would do is widen my orbit, more or less as it is, from the point that I happen to be at. I actually want to shift the orbit a little bit in towards the planet so it gives me a much better periapsis growth than apoapsis growth. Because I really don't want my apoapsis to get entirely too far out there. But as I continue to get closer to it, I'm going to actually want to increase the amount of thrust that I'm using. And you'll notice here how prograde and everything else shifts around as you go through your orbit. Because you're actually facing in the same direction, it's that the rest of the world is moving relative to you. So okay, a little bit more power. Actually pulling just over a G here at 1/3 thrust. It's not bad. Fuel's getting a little bit scarce. Then again, that's also why I'm actually able to pull such great accelerations, is this ship is so absolutely light at the moment. I'm going to turn in a little bit more, still trying to get my periapsis to come up. And my apoapsis is actually falling because I'm practically thrusting right towards the planet. Yeah, now it's starting to come up again. Come on, Jebediah, get into a decent orbit. Just see if I can't nudge this sucker into an actual friggin' orbit. I may not be able to. Come on. Nope, I'm not going to be able to. So unfortunately, Jebediah, you don't get to see orbit right now. See if I can't get a halfway decent crew report. Nope, nothing new there. So I need to get myself pointing retrograde and get ready for re-entry then. Because re-entry is also going to be very fast, most likely, given the steepness of that angle. Falling down past 100 grand. Yeah, it's supposed to automatically revert you to what is it? To standard time flow whenever you pass 70,000 in orbit of Kerbin, but as we all saw last night, that can still result in some nasty side effects for that brief period of time when you're accelerated way too fast. And yes, there's nothing quite like screaming through the atmosphere at 5,000 miles an hour. Let's hope the engines can take it. Yeah, still accelerating. Still accelerating because I'm actually falling, and the atmosphere is not as of yet thick enough, and my engines are starting to overheat, so fire them for all they're worth, and then let them work as an ablator for a little while. And then toss them off. Oh. No, apparently that didn't actually kill us. It just went boom, real close. And we are still decelerating, still not doing too terribly bad here. I'm wondering what that is that's being heated too much there. Could be the antenna. And we're coming down past 1,000 meters per second and finally starting to cool off a little bit. And now, even though I'm going to hit jettison on that, it's not going to go anywhere for a little while. And I can stage my parachutes. Just keep myself lined up with retrograde as much as possible. Help me bleed off some more speed. And I can't quite tell, but I think I'm coming down over land. Yeah, I am. Interesting. Might be able to get a new crew report out of it. Yeah, that sucker's okay. Yeah, and now of course that thing drops away and goes down there to go and explode against the landscape. And yay, we are on our way down. And just so this doesn't take forever and a day. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I hate coming down on the night side of any planet. You don't have shadows to help you tell how far up you are. Just kind of gotta guess and hope that you don't hit too hard. Although this is apparently a very low area for this planet. And recover. Next, done. Okay. So, see if there's anything else interesting over here. Splash down, splash down. Science data from space around Kerbin. That should actually be fairly easy to do. Okay. Look at the R&D. We can't afford anything new. Joy. Okay. So now we're going to attempt a flyby of the Mun. And oddly enough, the easiest way to do that is to make it a non-manned flyby, but new. You can't actually have a new pod put in, because whatever your original pod is what it's going to keep as your original. But here comes the really fun part, is do I want this to come back to Kerbin, or do I want it to just always be a flyer? Because that's going to determine whether or not I put a heat shield and parachutes on it. And to be completely and utterly honest, I'm not really all that worried about it coming back. But I have to worry about something else at that point, and that is maintaining enough power. So what I am going to do is place batteries in my service bay, and then set that back to dual symmetry. A couple more right there. And I'm going to put a communicatron on this thing. As soon as I set my symmetry to none, and stick that right there. Now between that and the thermometer, which I'm going to stick on right there, and the goo canister, which is going to go right there, I got plenty of fun stuff that I can work with there. Now, of course, this is not going to be the most aerodynamic nose you've ever seen, but what the hey. Okay, I have no intention of really bringing this back, so I don't have to worry about putting in a stacked decoupler right underneath this, because I can just keep the engines attached to it the entire time. But I am going to need plenty of fuel, because making it to the Mun is not exactly an easy thing to do. And of course I now have my choices here. I can go for a Reliant, which, yes, it gives me more thrust both in atmosphere and in vacuum, but it uses a good deal more fuel than the swivel. So when it comes right down to it, I am going to put a swivel on it right there. But I'm also going to add a stack decoupler right there and add thumpers underneath it, because this should be hopefully enough to actually get me the delta V I need to get not only out of the atmosphere but all the way to the Mun without too much trouble, I hope. It's actually too high. Move those down some more. Okay, add some aerodynamic features to that sucker, and angle locking for the fins. And since I don't have the structural reinforcements that I would like, I'm not going to add some more boosters up here like I will later on, because it would just be entirely too much wobble at this point for if I put those in, the whole thing would just sway back and forth like you would never believe. Okay, so we're now going for our Mun flyby. And hopefully we'll be able to test our thumper out as well. I'm going to set these to 90. See if maybe we can't get the thumper working. And now I have to upgrade my vehicle assembly bay because... And it is a very expensive thing to upgrade, but it also gives you a lot of leeway there. You go from only being able to use 30 parts to being able to use 255. And of course the next upgrade is an unlimited upgrade. So you can just build whatever you feel like. But then you have to upgrade the launch facility again in order to be able to use whatever you feel like. So let's pin this and head on down to the Thumper and see if maybe... And of course this thing has no SAS because it's one of the most basic probe controllers out there. I hope it has a torque wheel, otherwise it's gonna suck. Yeah, we're encountering a little bit more air resistance. We may actually see the, yep, just switched over to actual plasma resistance there. Now what I'm hoping here is I'll be able to coast to where I want to be within this range. Come on, come on. You can do it. You can do it. Don't get too high. Don't get too high. Crap. Never mind. I may not actually have any control over this thing. At which point this is going to be a very weird flight. Okay, I'm going to unpin that. We can drop that sucker. Figure out... Yeah. Okay, apoapsis... Actually, it's taking us towards the Mun as it is. So... Yeah, now we got a little bit of control, but without the SAS, you gotta do all sorts of weird stuff. Including balancing your... Yeah. This thing is not easy to control without an SAS. There we go. Okay, now that we've used up a buttload of liquid fuel, see if you can't get this friggin' roll to stop. I have such limited control right now. Now the biggest problem with what I'm doing at the moment is that if I miss the mun, it's just going to be very, very bad. Because I'm going to come streaking back in and slam into Kerbin. Okay. Yeah, I broke a speed record. Cool. Now, come on, I don't feel like thrusting anti-normal. I really don't want to thrust prograde either. Now, apparently this thing has absolutely no control without the engines. So, yeah. And with the engines, control is just not exactly something I would call this. Okay, expanding our orbit out a little bit. Trying to get it. Yeah, there we go. We're getting there, but this whole flight may be for nothing at this rate. Come on now. I wish I could figure out what in the blazes is up with this bloody roll. It just feels like it does not want to stop for anything. Yeah. Come on now. And at the very least, I'm going to be able to get that one recover scientific data from the space near Kerbin finished off this time, but I would really prefer it if I could get to the mun, but it does not look like that's going to happen. Mainly it's a control issue at this point, which is one of the problems that I have because I'm trying to reach too far too fast. Obviously. Although it can be fun to do so. It's just not in this case. Nope, wrong way. Wrong way. Yep. And this whole flight is about to be out of fuel. So say goodnight, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the maneuvering that we are going to do for this flight. Which means that I might as well just go ahead and get all of the scientific data I can, and then let her come screaming back into the Kerbal atmosphere. So we observe the mystery goo. Cool. Transmit. Yes, transmit the data. I'm gonna go ahead and lock that sucker in its extended mode. And that also gives us the science data contract completed. And then, come on. There we go. We can log temperature, transmit that data. And then, of course, we have our big materials bay. And transmit that data. So we are good all around. And close the doors to that thing, and that's it. This probe is officially going to come crashing down soon. But we'll deal with that when it comes back. And we have a little bit more R&D stuff to work with, and now we can get the small inline reaction wheel. Something I should have waited on, but that's fine. Now, with the small inline reaction wheel on this sucker, we take that off, we put that on, and our overall amount of control is just going to be insane at this point. Gonna turn these up just a wee bit more and try for it again. And this is the Munflyer 2. Because you never know exactly how many iterations of this you're going to end up doing. Okay, save and launch. And once again, we are attempting the Mun flyby, but we're also going to attempt the Thumper one while we're at it. And still don't have SAS, so stability is going to be a problem, but at least with a control system in place, we should be more or less okay. We'll see. As you can see, I've got a little bit more control here. I can try to counteract any weird rolls that it picks up. Now at this scale, that simple reaction wheel is actually going to be very useful, but at other scales it can be a little bit underpowered. Okay. We are coasting. And I may have adjusted that the wrong way. Yes, actually I did. So you know what? We're actually going to revert this one and adjust that the right way. Say about 87%. And then we're going to try it again. And knowing my luck, that's going to be just enough to make it so that it still falls out of range, just in the other direction. Okay. Now we're coming up on our goal and we're falling back into the proper range. Almost there. Come on. Come on. Do not go out of range. And now we're out of range anyway, so screw it. Yeah. See how much more control we've got of this thing now? Rolls are actually really easy for the inlines to deal with. Basically all that it is a gyroscope spinning itself around. Okay. You may be wondering why I'm aiming to the east with my thrust there. It primarily has to do with the fact that it will put me into an orbit that matches the Mun, and it also means that I'm not fighting the natural orbit of Kerman. Okay, so I'm just going to thrust prograde. Yeah, one of the biggest problems with not having an SAS is it doesn't damp things out as much as one would hope. I'm going to try to keep expanding my orbit until I get somewhat closer to intersecting the Mun. Oh, come on. You can see how much I'm having to fiddle around with this thing, just trying to get it to work out there. Come on. Yeah, that's our other space probe, and in a little while it'll come streaking back around and slam into Kerbal. Poor little space probe. Now the main reason that I'm just thrusting prograde here is because I really want to get some distance in my orbit. But I'm doing it lightly because I also want to expand the orbit a little bit, and I don't just want to burn through fuel like all get out. Yeah, that orbit on that poor Mun flyer went really eccentric. Of course, I'm not even entirely sure that I can do this yet. I may not have upgraded my facilities enough to be able to do this properly. So one of the nicest things about the later game here is that you actually get... Damn it. No. Sorry, but that one I'm just not going to be able to deal with. Is you get the ability to plan out your maneuvers and your orbits and everything later on. Yeah. There's all of those potential missions. But, yeah, I'm just not going to fight with that thing right now. Okay. Mission control. Tracking station upgrade required for flight planning. How much is the tracking station upgrade going to cost me? More than I have. So I have no choice but to take on a couple of contracts and get them working. Flight over Kerbal. Let's see what we got here. We need to haul the heat shield up there. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that thumper test over with. Open. Cancel. Nah. Cancel. New. Don't save. Get myself a little bit of extra control on this thing. And, of course, a parachute. Stack decoupler. Oh, and before I forget about it, because I know I'm going to need it, heat shield. There we go. Now we'll see if we can't get this to work with, or work better I should say, with 3 instead of 4 thumpers. Among other things, this thing is a lot lighter than most of the earlier vehicles I was working with. But I'm only going to set it to 90. And I know it seems a little bit weird to special build a single test bed, but sometimes you just don't have a choice. Okay. Just to be on the safe side, that lets me do all of that. Okay, you can see the other thumpers flopping around out there. Okay. Launch it. Now the addition of those other 2 inline control wheels should actually give me a fairly decent amount of control over this thing. Okay. And those suckers just burned out. Let's see how quickly we can slow down. And it's not going to be quickly enough. Yeah. When playing this game, you'll actually find yourself reverting a lot. Simply because of the nature of the beast. Okay. And instead of going for 3, I'm going to go for 2 this time. Which not only lightens it, but also pulls a lot of thrust out of it. And I'm going to remember to add a couple of batteries because I'm probably going to need them for those inline control wheels sooner or later. And this is now Thumper 2. Save. Launch. And once again, we just watch the indicators over here. Speed is coming up good. Crap, we are turning for some reason. Not absolutely certain as to why we are turning. Probably because I don't have any sort of fins on it to keep it stable. Okay, speed is already too low. So we definitely need 3. We just need to turn them down like all get out. Open. Don't save. Thumper 1. Okay, let's try 75. Yeah, 75 sounds like a good one. And save. And this is now going to be Thumper 3. Save. Launch. And once again, here we go. Now the big problem with throttling your boosters down is that they don't burn their fuel as quickly, so you actually end up with a longer thrust, which can produce actually more delta V. So this may eventually start moving in the wrong direction for what I'm hoping. Oh man, I forgot to turn my SAS on. Hopefully I'll be able to recover. But it can be a real pain in the butt some days. Like now. Okay. Just going to revert to launch here. Okay, turn the SAS on now so it can actually maintain stability as we go up. And it is one of the biggest problems that I have with these specific range contracts is that it does just get so annoyingly tedious trying to meet that specific range that it wants. And of course, if you turn down your boosters too far, what you end up with is literally no thrust at all, because it won't be able to overcome the force of gravity. Okay. And once again, screwed. So yeah, I may have to do some weird stuff to actually get that sucker to work. And yes, I am now thrusting towards the ground. Because I am just barely even in space at the moment. But I've got a pretty wide orbit, so I should be able to re-enter decently well here. And I've got plenty of control, so it'll actually be really easy for me to maintain a lock on that, provided that my battery power holds out. Yeah. Which it should, all things being equal. Just remember, there is no guarantee of that. And the SAS can eat through a lot of power very quickly. And can also be very hard to control. Because I'm not using a joystick or a game controller or anything, I'm just using a keyboard, and tapping keys is, as anybody who's ever done it knows, a pain in the butt. Now, one thing I do wish it gave you was a an overall schematic as to how things are going. Just simply having these tiny little bars show up is just annoying. Okay, jettison the heat shield, roll over so it goes away, stage my parachutes, turn the SAS off so it stops jittering so much, and wait until we finally open our parachutes, and then we'll hit the water. And yay, we'll be down. And we just wasted money on a flight that did not accomplish anything. And nope. Okay, recover the vessel. Let's see. That one would actually not be all that hard. It offers a good bit of money, too. As to why they want me to test the thud splashdown on Kerbin, I have no idea. That one shouldn't be all that hard. And yeah, testing a radial decoupler splashdown is just massively simple. Okay. So they want me to test out that parachute. Which, yeah, that's the XL parachute. You'll unlock that one later. It's friggin' huge, but it's also a nice parachute to have. And I've got that one there, which I'm going to disable its staging, actually. Okay. Because I want to... Nope, wait a minute, let me... I do believe that I may not have any choice but to... No, I have to use it staging, okay. So enable its staging, but I want to place it up there and put the parachute... No, wrong one. Place that one up there. Yes, put the parachute there. That way I can be splashdown and then fire the bloody thing. I just have to make sure that I actually hit the water. Okay. I'm going to turn these down just a smidge more. And this is going to be the Thumper 4. Save and... Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay, save, launch. Here we go again. SAS on, and launch. And this is what I get for even touching the controls while still in the basic stages of launch. Okay. I just need to keep my hands off the controls and let this sucker go, because otherwise it's going to be going all over the place. Okay, I managed to haul that sucker up there. Okay. Crap, why are we doing this, guys? I know exactly why we're doing this. Because we have nothing to stabilize us. Because I decided to take shortcuts. Okay, that should solve that problem. And yeah, you end up doing a lot of different iterations of this stuff. Just trying to find something that actually works. But you also have to remember that every tiny little piece that you add to this adds to its weight. So and come on. Pulling nearly 2 Gs at this point. Once again, got that one. Okay. Okay, now we're going to see if we can't get this one to work again. Because we're slowing down pretty well. We haven't yet gotten into that range. Now, there we go. So this one should actually get us 3 separate contracts. I can fire those and get rid of that stuff. Okay. And yeah, you need to be careful, as I said, with what contracts you take, because some of them are just going to be really nasty like that. Okay, we just broke space. What's our orbit looking like? 250,000 meters. Joy. Okay, let's turn retrograde and hope. Nothing worthwhile there. Figures. Yeah, gotta be really careful using the time warp, especially as you get closer to the atmosphere. As we saw yesterday, it can do very nasty things to you. Okay, haul that parachute into flight. Heat shield, see how it does. Biggest problem is that I'm just going too fast. Yeah. Radial decoupler starting to overheat a little bit. But the heat shield managed to get me back down pretty good. Okay, stage that parachute, and luckily I'm coming down over water, so I'll actually be able to do that radial decoupler splashdown. Yep. Of course, yeah, that's one of the big parachutes, so even with the heat shield on, it's still capable of going slow. Ah, okay, that explains why I can't control the spin. We are without power. Okay, now do that, and I get the radial decoupler complete. So, yeah. Go ahead and recover. And of course, we get a little bit more science because of the contracts that we completed. And of course, we get some money too. And yeah, we only managed to recover so much from the parts, and the crew didn't get any experience for that because it wasn't even a full orbit. Okay, guys. So now you've seen a little bit more of the troubles that you go through just trying to accomplish some of these more finicky contracts here. And one of the nice things about this Fly by the Mun contract is I'll show you it in here. This one, I have just under a year to finish it off. This one the same. This one, it never actually expires. I can take as long as I want to just fly by the Mun. So that's why you'll usually find yourself trying to get these things working a little bit better, or working a little bit sooner than you will something like one of the storyline missions. And yes, that's under a year on Kerbin. Of course, Kerbin days are only 6 hours long, but the Kerbin year is, I want to say, almost 600 days. It's at least 500 days, but yeah, it's a little bit weird. So, you guys have a good one, and I will probably end up picking this back up Thursday night. So, have a good night.